Hey there. Yeah, this is really interesting. Um, One of the sort of takeaways that I'm getting from the dream symbolism in this Jung's book is that a lot of times, um, there might be a literal understanding of the dream. Like, let's say if like one of our parents shows up in our dreams. But everything also could have like a symbolic, metaphorical understanding as well. So I'll share like a dream that I personally had recently. Um, so I had a dream where I was like maybe in my, like I was definitely an adult, like maybe a younger adult, and I was standing in my childhood bedroom and nothing was in the room. Like I was just standing there. I was kind of facing the window. I think the window was like the blinds were shut. And I was just like not doing anything. And then all of a sudden, like my dad walked in, and I don't think my childhood bedroom ever had a lock. So there wasn't any knocking. He just came in and he was holding something that looked like, I don't know, like a cylinder receptacle of some sort. And like he expanded it and it was like a sword. And so I was instantly like scared. And he came up behind me and put the sword, like the blade of the sword, on the back of my neck. And instead of like kind of bending forward to like or walking away, I like rose up on like my like I guess like tiptoes. So and then he walked around to my right side. So the door was on my left and he walked around to my right side. And then he just stood there and I like kind of froze. And I think I was still like, like levitating myself kind of. And then I remember I started screaming and then I woke up because I think like I was trying to like appease him and like try to like protect myself and calm him down because he had like an angry kind of feel. So on the one hand, I can interpret that literally. So I've been focusing on my mother wound and doing some meditations on that, but I never really considered doing meditations on a father wound because in my situation, and again, this is kind of personal, so sorry. um, don't care. But so my mother was the one who I always thought was like, I guess, how do I say this in a nice way? Um, I can't. Like I guess like psychologically abusive and toxic. But my dad was mostly like just unavailable, like emotionally unavailable. He was physically present, but just not there. Like it's kind of I mean, I don't have a relationship with either of them anymore, but it was kind of the relationship where, you know, he would like text me on holidays, but that's about it. And that's fine, but I never really considered that a problem. So one, on the literal level, this, if I'm trying to ask from a Jungian perspective, what is my unconscious trying to tell me that I'm not consciously getting? And I think it was that, hey, you need to deal with your father issues as well. You have them just because he never actively did anything to like that you would consider harmful or like psychologically abusive or whatever, there's still something that you need to deal with concerning that relationship because it wasn't like a like like I guess a healthy enlightened relationship. And so I thought, well, that's really helpful because I've never done that and I've never thought about that in my entire life. So so now I can look for like meditations on father wounds and like figure that out. But on a symbolic level, Jung says that everyone that appears in our dream is us. Like, so I was reading, what is her name? Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Women Who Run with the Wolves. And I just got through a really amazing chapter. It was chapter 10, and it was about this story where this I guess like Spanish like oppressor is coming into Mexico and marries this woman and gets her pregnant, but he decides not to marry her and he leaves off to Spain to marry someone of like a woman of a like I guess like privilege. And so she, the story is, the legend is, she throws her children in the river and she is just so distraught and she is sort of cursed, I guess, with living the rest of her life. And there's various versions, but one version is she spends eternity combing through the river trying to find the souls of her children. And so Pinkola Estes like interprets this in various ways, but one way she interprets it as the Spanish conquistador is actually the animus within a woman. So the masculine aspect that's in a woman that is maybe needs to be developed more. Because Jung has this idea that within every, and I know that there are like various ways to understand identity and gender and everything, but like in someone who identifies as a woman, let's say, there's an animus. So there's a masculine aspect within. And that aspect, however we understand or however that masculine aspect within a woman is developed, that might cause issues in a relationship with a man, let's say, because she might project her undeveloped understanding or animus within her onto like her male partner. But also it has to do, she says, with like, because if the masculine element is like a get shit done kind of aspect of yourself, she's talking about it in terms of like creativity in a project. Like if, let's say which I do, I procrastinate or I start projects and I don't finish them, you know, or I make all these excuses not to work on my project, which is like a book, like writing a book, let's say. That would be my example now. It's because like maybe the get shit done aspect of myself, the animus, the masculine aspect of myself is not who he should be. Like he should be a protector, a motivator, an encourager, someone who, you know, honors my intuition and my creative aspect that's flowing and does like the more realistic things to manifest it out in the world, to bring it to completion, to negotiate with, you know, with people in the world, like maybe the book dealer. And again, this is symbolic, right? Like the individual is the one doing it, but she says it very symbolically. So I know I'm kind of ranting on this or dragging it out, but going back to the dream about my father. So maybe it's not like literally my father on the symbolic level, but it's like a male aspect or an animus, the masculine within my unconscious coming out. And I'm like, okay, so I interpreted it as this is like a scary threat to me. Like someone has a sword, maybe they're going to like, I don't know, stab me or hurt me or something. Like that's obviously what my ego was thinking. But if the self is the ego in the dream, the ego then is confronted with an unconscious part, in this sense, the masculine part of myself. And really, like, I wasn't hurt in the dream. And if you think about it, like the sword, the contact with the sword made me stand up straighter. And standing up straight can be a metaphor for like confidence, having more self-worth, etc. So on a literal level, it's helpful. On a symbolic level, it's helpful because I've never really thought about, because I do have that problem of, I probably do have a very like undeveloped masculine side or animus, the get shit done part. And so I need to, and I know I'm being very colloquial, but that just like makes a lot of sense to me when I say it like that. So I'm offering it to you all. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm getting from Jung's dream symbolism, that you can look at it on a very literal level for relationships that you have in your life, like if somebody shows up in your dream, but that as well is not actually that person in your actual life. That is a part of you, because everything in your dream is a projection. And dreams to Jung are vehicles of the unconscious sending you messages. So Jung feels that mostly dreams have a compensatory role. Like, for instance, if your conscious self is often directed and one-sided, so your unconscious is going to try to compensate. Like if you have too high perspective of a person, because Jung has this example a lot with like a client who's dealing with like the person they just got married or their parent or whatever, and they like basically worship them and they think they're perfect, etc. So they'll dream about that person in a very like unadmirable way. And it's the unconscious trying to balance out their conscious understanding, because no one, human beings are not like perfect and, objects of worship. And they're not like, horrible people, right? Like a lot of times, like a human is just like in between and working things out. And so a lot of times what our dynamic in our relationship with somebody else is, a part of them, like that we're receiving from them, but it's also a part of a projection from ourselves. So I don't know if that helps. That was like a 10-minute. That's why my videos are so long, because I don't know. I have a lot to say, I guess. But anyway, so that's kind of something, if you pick up a book on dream analysis by Jung, that's kind of something that you'll find and get.